Hello and welcome to episode 6, Rebel City podcast. As always, got Matt with me. How's
All
it
right,
going,
mate.
Matt?
How's it going?
Not too bad, mate. How's yourself?
Tired, but raring to go.
I think that this is... I've been really tired this week as well. Don't know what's going on, but... wanted to get the podcast in basically this week. Didn't have a guest lined up, so decided that basically we'd do a wee podcast on anxiety. I've had a couple of people reach out just since we've started making the podcast and asked me about my experiences, different people in different situations, but one thing that keeps coming up for them is that they suffer from anxiety, different sort of levels. And I think we've touched on it before, so I wanted to just start off a podcast that way, and if we get a bit of time, then can maybe just chat about like how we're finding doing the podcast.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm kind of similar to yourself. I think we kind of touched on it last week when we were talking with Dan Proverbs about how, just kind of having these conversations has encouraged a few folk to sort of reach out and obviously chat with us. Kind of similar experience to yourself in a sense. It's been nice, but again, as much as we were talking suicide prevention last week, that's probably at the high end of the scale of people's experience of mental health issues. I think day to day, like anxiety has become a massive thing in people's lives. I think in the build up to this, I read something like 8% of the population. Excuse me, which is huge. You know what I mean? Like 8. Aye.
That say that they suffer
From some form of anxiety.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's a big problem out there.
And well, just shy of 10% of the population is definitely a huge problem. I think something that had come up for me in one of the conversations was what the person was describing. Obviously, we're not going to name any names.
No, of
If
course
anybody ever reaches out and wants to talk to us, if they know us on a personal level in any way, like I would never mention your name.
Yep.
But one of the conversations that I had, the guy was describing to me, which sounded like quite bad anxiety. I had described my experience with anxiety, and I had spent a number of years in a sort of what I would describe as just like an anxious bubble.
Okay.
But because I had never really had anybody near me or close to me describe their experiences and anxiety, I never really knew what it was. I started experiencing it maybe around about sort of like 18, 19. And I think I probably had it non-stop through until I was about 21, 22. And what that felt like for me was just like a constant sense of unease and this feeling of basically that there's something not right.
Yeah.
And so what I did back then was absolutely nothing. And for whatever reason, it just kind of went away, which I got lucky.
Maybe just a phase at the time or whatever.
Exactly. That's what I thought. I thought maybe this is just a phase. But what this person had described to me was that kind of feeling. I would think that. So I get another sort of bout of anxiety later on as well, and it was the exact same. So what it would feel like to me is that I was constantly at like a 5 out of 10 sort of anxiousness. That was like my base, and any tiny wee thing that would come in, whether it be a work issue, a family issue, a relationship issue, anything whatsoever that came into my life and I didn't know it was going to come or it was uncertain, that would cause me to go straight to a 10.
Yeah.
And what I find that since then is that my base is maybe like a 1 or a 2, and if things come in, it goes to about a 5. And I'd never knew that was the way that I was living when I was like 18, 19. I just felt that this was potentially just normal. I didn't have a great job. I was in a band. I wasn't doing great at uni. It might have been this, it might have been that. That's what I just put it down to. Just like probably what it actually was. Just a whole number of things.
So situational.
Yeah. And I just, like I said, I ignored that and it kind of just shipped away.
You've been lucky there, I think, to be honest with you. I mean, I know what you're talking about. When I was kind of in my uni years, I lived on my own. I went out pretty young at sort of 19 to get me in place. I had the uni, the job, the social life and whatnot, and that's something I wasn't prepared for at the time. You know what I mean? Like, the notion that I was like I'll pay X amount in rent, but then you forget about gas and electricity and council tax and feeding yourself and getting to work. And I've got to say, that sense that for me it was more a kind of dread that I experienced in my younger days, and it felt at the time situational. I think what I've learned about myself subsequently, it's probably been a symptom of something larger that I was also ignoring at that age. And in my later life, it's weird. And then in the build up to this, I did a bit of reading on the various, anxiety and sort of panic disorders. And what I've always classified as anxiety within myself doesn't really fit that, textbook definition. I've always felt quite uneasy, and when I'm experiencing these emotions, I definitely become very antisocial. Like the notions of going out and being, out in public, become pretty, and it brings an anger out in me. So it does. Like, it's weird. I become angry with myself, which then just kind of snowballs it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'll know when you'll see me in a corner of a room just sweat lashing off me, and that's kind of been my experience. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough not to have palpitations and all these other sort of physical things. So it was quite weird for me in that, like, always classifying my anxiety a certain way, and then seeing that definition in the build up to the day and being like, it doesn't really fit. What
So
my
what was the
experience is.
clinical? What was the definitions that you read?
So I think there was like sort of 5 various sort of main. There was like social anxiety, things like agoraphobia and stuff like that. There was, OCD. How the anxiety basically manifests. So the anxiety is the same throughout. It just sort of manifests in sort of various different ways. And what I've always classified as my anxiety didn't really, sort of fit into that, to be honest with you. Or either that, or it's way lighter in terms of anxiety than maybe I first anticipated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like OCD and I think that OCD and they're like chronic anxiety disorders, and I think that everybody. This was what I was sort of getting to a minute ago. Is that I think that what everybody doesn't recognise or speak about is that everybody is sort of suffering to a certain extent.
Yeah.
With a certain level of anxiety.
Yeah.
Depending on, like you're saying, if it's situational or whether or not it's classed as a disorder. I think that one of the main things that when I was thinking about, I was like, I should really podcast about this, is just to sit and just talk about it. I just don't think that anybody speaks about how, like, I mean, I've had, and I'd say in probably my lifetime, I've probably had about a handful of panic attacks. And I don't think any of them have ever been just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's been lingering for a few days, and it's sort of, people say it creeps up on you. I don't think it. Well, it doesn't for me.
Yeah.
Like, if people get panic attacks and it genuinely creeps up on them, then that's totally fine. But for me, it's something that niggles away at me.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, and they end up as just like a debilitating fear or something.
Yeah.
Or nothing. And I think that if we could speak about these things, and I think that it would definitely stop it getting to that sort of panic attack level. I think, like, if somebody, I mean, even for me, I don't want anybody to sit and think that if I ever speak about stuff, because I'm studying mental health, and so I know what the ideal is, and I know what it should look like, but I don't always keep to it myself, and I'm not preaching to anybody and saying that this is how I live my life or anything. If I'm ever talking about any of the solutions, like, but I think that if I don't speak openly about it. And I've the last few weeks I've probably been sitting, instead of sitting at a 1 or a 2, I've probably been sitting at about a 3 or a 4 the last couple of weeks. I've had a couple of things happen in my life, and I think that there's been a death in the family, and these things just kind of build up, and I think it's important for me, essentially, to catch it when it's sitting at the 3 or the 4. I don't want to let it get any further. And I think that there's too many people out there that don't know how to do that.
Absolutely. It's and again, it is a hard one to spot. Again, when I was talking about the various types that I've kind of read up on, the bit that kind of it's been confusing to me is that the anxiety side of things tends to be considered more a kind of sort of conscious thing, and the panic attacks, you know, a sort of subconscious thing. And again, that's part of it that's no kind of set with me. So I've come more to terms with my depression, which I do recognise and are able to manage, than I do anxiety. Anxiety is something that, when it comes, it almost always sort of catches me off guard. And I tend to feel it's usually my body telling me that I'm not dealing with something, or I've not dealt with something in the way that I would have liked. You know what I mean? But again, it's a bit of a mystery to me at times, because I'm so conscious about my actual general mental health that when this thing comes out and sideswipes me, it's quite a confusing experience for me. So it is, like, because I spend so much time trying to be, you know, within myself, that when something sideswipes me like that, it's hard to put a finger on why for me. So it is, like, and I have the things like you say, illness, families, and all these kind of things. But I don't know. I've never sat at the end of an anxiety attack and went, I know what caused that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think I have either.
So yeah, I think that maybe I would say maybe the first couple, any that I've had in the last 2 or 3 years, I've been able to pinpoint it.
Yeah.
Exactly what's caused it. I think that this comes down to like awareness and self-awareness and stuff, and definitely like studying to become a therapist. I've went completely balls deep into this whole sort of self-awareness thing.
Yeah.
I'm constantly aware of my thoughts, and so I can almost trace them.
Yeah.
Which is getting better and better and better and better. I know it's almost like the more you practice, and I mean we can talk about like what the actual practice is,
Of course.
if anybody wants to know. But the more you practice, I can get on anxiety at like what I'm saying, like 2.
Yeah.
So I can if something comes into my head, say for instance work, I don't then, which I believe through talking to people, this is what happens to them. I don't then 5 or 6 hours later realise, oh shit, I've been thinking about that for 5 or 6 hours, or I've been caught in this negative loop for 5 or 6 hours staring at the TV. And you come out of it, and then all of a sudden your guts and knots, and you're just and then a lot of people's experience, it then becomes, I don't know what's caused this. And it's like, well, you've been thinking about something that's stressing you a couple of hours earlier, and you've just went into the rabbit hole with yourself.
I think you're maybe fortunate in the sense that you've got that maybe training and experience, because that's one of the things that I find frustrating about the anxiety, and I think I'm quite well prepared, given, you know, my past experience personally with this type of thing, that even now that element of it still confuses me. If we've got people out there, people listening, people watching the show, who experience anxiety but have never taken those steps to be maybe more aware of themselves, maybe more in control of what's going on. I mean, I remember my first attack. I think we were sitting in Rufus T, whatever it is. Me and Stacey had only been together, maybe less than a year, and I became aware of the fact that I had just standing at the bar, sweat clean through a shirt, and then started shaking, and then became quite faint and had to kind of step away. And it was quite a weird experience to be in such a big group of people. We were, I think, maybe being on the way to a gig or something like that, mixed with, getting to know a partner and whatnot. But that was terrifying. That first experience, I can still remember it, you know what I mean? But the experiences I've now don't terrify me as much because of what I've learned and whatnot. But for people out there who haven't taken that time to maybe try and, as I say, be a bit self-aware, learn about their condition or themselves, it must be a living hell. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it was. I mean, my experience with anxiety later in life, 35-year-old, but the sort of when it came back with a vengeance. Maybe around about, what am I, 35? Maybe about 28 or 29, coincided when we becoming, like, getting the job that I've got just now, which is, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to sit and be like, I've got a pressure, my job is pressure laden and stuff like that, but as a sales environment, I need to perform month to month, and if I don't, then I'll lose my job. So I do have pressures, and nobody puts the pressures on me more than I do myself. So.
Well, that is also true.
Yeah. So it it came back with a vengeance, and I tried to just do the same thing again, where I just tried to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought this has happened before. It'll go away, but it just wouldn't go away.
Right out.
Aye, just the usual. Bury your head in the sand and hope for the best, which just doesn't work. Like, I mean, I think like there might be somebody out there that could be like, well, I've done it, but with my experience personally, it comes back 10 times stronger than you've ever thought that it ever could.
Yeah.
And the only way for me to get out of that was to study it and to understand it. And that's just the way that I'm as a person. And I get that won't work for everybody.
Yeah.
But for me, like the knowledge of other people's experiences, how they deal with it, has just been so valuable to me.
Yeah.
I mean, just we've spoke about it so many times, maybe third or fourth time in 6 episodes, but meditation for me is what gives me that sort of self-awareness. Like I'm almost in a constant state of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And that, like, I've got that through studying. I'm professionally training to become a cognitive behavioural therapist. I get like 15 minutes a week where I get to sit down with somebody and I get to practice.
Yep.
And it's somebody that's on the course, but they ask them that they give me real life situations, and I give them real life situations, and people cry, and it's like proper, like it gets deep. I mean, there's like
Absolutely.
3 people in a room, sort of like either talking about work, or there's sometimes it's like real deep shit that comes out when you're sitting in there, and it's all confidential, and it's like I love doing it. I really love doing it.
CBT is said to be one of the most effective ways of handling anxiety, for what I read.
Well, I had kind of changed my... So I will talk about that in a wee second, because that's quite an important point. But in that session, you need to... That 15 minutes of that person speaking at you, you need to listen.
Yeah.
There is absolutely... So when I first started, I was sitting and I was thinking about, what do I say here? What is up? what is wrong with this person?
Yeah.
What do they want here? And it just does not work. So what you go through a sort of process of putting the building blocks in place so that you can actually communicate with somebody, and how do you let somebody know that you're listening, and all these things, and it just brings you into this sort of state of sort of flow that you end up in, where somebody's speaking and it's impossible for you not to hear what they're saying. It's weird. I mean, I sat for the first while thinking you need to be able to read minds, and
I can get into why it would feel like that sometimes.
But then once you actually start to see, once you can get good enough at listening, you can start to hear what the person's actually saying.
Yeah.
And then you can just fire that back at them, and then everything
reading between the
just
lines.
opens up.
Absolutely.
But that practice, that 10 minutes, and then what was that documentary? Inside. It's a documentary on Netflix was it on Netflix, YouTube? About mindfulness, about meditation. It shows you like a school down in England where the kids meditate every morning, and there's like no fighting. They have arguments, but they resolve it, and there's loads of stuff with the wee
That's
boy.
something that's taken on in a lot of countries now, is that, like, it's particularly in like lower grade schools and stuff like that, primary schools, etc. A lot of countries actually taking on mindfulness and meditation as part of their curriculum.
Daily routine or whatever. I mean, exercise, why no? Mindfulness, why no? You know what I mean? Nothing but good. But this documentary really, really changed the way that I looked at things with regards to meditation and mindfulness. And basically, the woman had said in the documentary, you need to practice for 10 minutes every day, which is meditation. She's like, but you also need to practice every single minute every day. Whenever you think about practicing, you need to practice. So she's like, start with brushing your teeth. For the minute and a half, 2 minutes that you're brushing your teeth, you need to only think about brushing your teeth, and then you build it up for there, so that you end up going through your day almost constantly in the moment. And that is my goal. Like that is one of my goals, is to just be living in the moment. And this documentary really changed. I was thinking that you meditate, but then you just go about things as normal. And how did I really didn't see how do I apply this in real life, and what benefit is it to it? And it's just a case of, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but it's just a case of focus on what you're doing. And if you're not doing anything, then it's all right to think about stuff. Like you can think about stuff, but just as long as you stay aware of what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking negatively about a situation, question the negativity. Think about, is there anything
It's a
positive?
really hard thing to do sometimes.
It's I mean, it's almost impossible at certain times. I think
Yep.
that part of the journey that I've been on, there was a point where I felt like I was doing really well. I'm getting to grips with this, but it was almost like that's the first step.
Yeah.
Now you know all this stuff, and now that you can feel all these feelings, what you're going to do about it. So this is what I was going to say about the CBT. Cognitive behavioural therapy, for me, and is like a band-aid.
Okay.
So you can change the way that you think about stuff, but if there is something deep down inside you that you need to either come to terms with, communicate to people, which is like the big one for me, and I don't do that enough either, is tell people like your secrets. Do you know what I mean? The stuff that you wouldn't tell anybody. If you've got one or two people in your life that you can tell they things to, you're in a very exclusive like group of people.
Yeah.
But cognitive behavioural therapy and all these things that people, CBD and change your diet, go to the gym.
Yep.
These things will definitely make you feel better. But if you have got something that happened to you when you were young, or if you have got something that you don't, there's some event or a series of events in your life as it was with me, you need to start to deconstruct them mentally.
Yeah.
And digest them and make sure that you either write it out, talk to somebody, do whatever it is that you need to do. I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there where they'll tell you what to do, but you need to digest these things, like, because if you hoard them, like that's what I think the feeling in my stomach is just all the resentments, all the bitterness that I had inside me for people that have probably done very little to me, actually. But
In the grand scheme, aye.
yeah, so like early course of like studying and about to move into like the diploma year for CBT, I think it's a band-aid. It's not going to fix everything. What it will do is it will get you to a place where you can actually fix it,
Yeah.
but you need to fix it. There's been so many people that I've spoke to that go for like 6 sessions CBT. Oh, it was great. See, during the 6 sessions CBT, it was fantastic. I loved it. And it's like, but you're talking to me now about how you don't feel all right. So what's happened since then? And it's either the practices went by the wayside. They don't realise that kind of changes for life.
Yep.
Or it's actually something that's eating away at them that they need to just go, look, I need to speak to somebody about this. Like,
Yeah.
whether it be, I know I said earlier on, a loved one. I know that sometimes that isn't the best case scenario, especially if it might be something that they don't agree with or whatever it might
Or
be.
maybe they're the root cause, potentially.
Potentially,
Yeah.
aye. But like things like CBT,
Kind of like a tool, like Dan was talking about,
Yeah.
a various set of tools that are in your box to then take out and
Take
use
out.
as and when needed.
yeah, for sure. And that's definitely the thing about like changing the way that, I mean, that's what cognitive behavioural therapy is. I mean, what I just described, like getting yourself into a mindful state that you can recognise negative thoughts and change them. And that's easy for somebody to say. And it's like, how do you get there? It's long and it's arduous, but the only way that I've seen success for it is if I do it every day. I can't skip a day. It's kind of like, it's no even, I mean, a lot, it might be psychological. I get that. Like if somebody was to go, well, if some sort of horrible feeling, anxiety builds up over the course of years, how come missing one day meditation means that you go back? I know that might well be placebo and it might be just
Yeah.
psychological, but if I miss a day, if I miss 2 days, if I miss 3 days, by the time I get to 4 days, no meditation, no like whatever it might be, Kundalini yoga, no martial arts, I feel like a piece of shit, man.
Yeah.
And I need to do something about it.
Okay. I mean, it's again like we spoke in probably like episode 1, like the important part when you're taking control of your mental health or your anxiety, as is the case we're talking here this evening, is that the process you put in place works for you. And if you need it every day,
Yeah.
then that's your process. And, you know, you should never have to apologise for
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Like, if your well-being is dependent on that process, then of course 2, 3, 4, 5 days or whatever is going to have an impact because you're conscious of the fact that you're no abiding by the process. You know what I mean? Like, for me, the mindfulness side of things, slightly different. I don't think that my experience of mindfulness has went to the kind of analytical stage that you have kind of went to. I've not took on any sort of formal learnings or anything like that. For me, it was a way to quieten my head down. So obviously, as part of my experience with my mental health is that when I'm at a worst, the biggest thing for me is intrusive and negative thoughts, and my head goes to a dark place a lot of the time. And the mindfulness has actually provided me with a tool, as we were saying, to just interrupt it long enough to get back in control of what's going on. And as a result of that, I have obviously gained a bit of insight about myself. I'm more a kind of, in the heat of the moment, I'll rely on mindfulness. Like in the last couple of weeks, where I've been transitioning medication and stuff like that, it's something I definitely use more often, and I'm probably more conscious of using when I probably don't feel too stressed out or anything like that, just because I'm re-establishing a bit of normality. But generally speaking, I would say that, probably a couple of times a week I would use it, but it wouldn't be an everyday thing for me. And it's that time I take to myself to just bring myself back into what's going on.
A reset.
Basically, I find that when I become conscious of it, that's not always necessarily enough to stop it for me. There it is, because as I was saying before, and again in episode 1, was that sometimes I feel like quite a bit of a passenger in it, where I'm, my brain is doing the driving and I'm just kind of watching what's going on. So being conscious of the fact that I'm having these negative or intrusive thoughts isn't always enough for them to stop. And I've found mindfulness a good way to just break it up long enough to actually get myself back in
like
control.
Your analogy there, man, because a lot of people they almost think that their negative thoughts are if you go to a dark place. I mean, I'm the exact same. I have intrusive thoughts, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, why the fuck are you thinking about that? Or inappropriate moments to be having these thoughts, or like you're saying, like dark, like really sort of dark stuff. And like you said there, I'm a passenger and my brain's like doing the driving. That's a really interesting analogy. I think that the mindfulness probably gives you the ability to take care of the driving seat, even for just a moment, just to break that. I mean, it's such an overused word, but such a cool thing, because it's such a mystery to me. But momentum, like if you can break momentum,
that's it.
That's it, and that is the hardest thing that you can do. And if mindfulness, if that's all that you tried mindfulness and that is all that you take for it, I would say that that's amazing.
It's been huge for me. I mean, up until very recently, I've been a number of years completely unmedicated without any real issue. And I think the understanding that I have for myself now has been a massive factor in, recently going back on a medication, because for the first time in my entire life, I seen this slide coming way off in the distance, and I was putting, mood management in place, meditation, taking breaks for work, and various other things. And over the course of weeks became aware of the fact that that wasn't enough. And for the first time in my life, was able to go, well, do you know what? It's time to go and speak to the GP. You know what I mean? And that even small awareness that I've got for the process of that in the last couple of years has been enough that, I had 2 weeks off work, and 5 years ago it would have been 6 months. You know what I mean? So even a tiny bit of knowledge about this type of stuff, as I feel that I've got, maybe by comparison to somebody like yourself, has made just an absolutely night and day massive difference in my everyday life. You know what I mean?
Aye, man. That's great. I mean, I think I instantly went to, I can't remember who it was anyway to say their name, but you were either there doing a podcast or we were watching the football, and you had said to somebody, well, I'm just letting the medication set in. I can't remember who it was. No, oh, sorry to hear about your own meds, and you were like, I'm sorry to hear that. And just you giving me your perspective on it is just completely like, I mean, it takes me to that and makes me think, like, saying that to people make me think twice anyway, but also that is a real positive step for somebody that struggled with mental health, to be able to see it coming and just actually, like we were saying there, break the momentum. And
I had another weird experience to do with it as well, in the sense that, I did get a bit, in the build up to coming here, they were a bit tired, a bit ratty, did get a bit nippy towards the end of my shift. Somebody passed me by and went, "You're right, mate, not seen you in ages." And I've been off sick for a while. Now, I made a conscious choice a couple of years ago not to hide it anymore, not to make excuses for it. I've been very fortunate to not spend a lot of time in my life really worrying too much about what other people think of me. And this has been a time where those two things kind of married quite nicely together. And somebody that actually, the person that spoke to me, I've been off sick, usual stick, this and that and the other, and oh, no, sorry to hear that, no worries. And they emailed me like 10 minutes later to go, look, I'm really sorry to have brought that up in the staff room. Like, I didn't mean to embarrass you there. And I was like, I'm not embarrassed. Like, this isn't something that you need to apologise for. Like, it's all good. You know what I mean? So it is something that's, again, 3-4 years ago, that would have been completely unimaginable. You know what I mean? Like,
And you're claiming that the tools you've just like I've not quite went as deep as what I've went, but you've gained a functional like support tool.
Yep.
Through just like for what you're claiming is just like a little bit of knowledge. Do you know what I mean? So I think that just shows people that if you just, there's so many people that I encounter, and I don't know if it's just me because I work in like when I manage people. Like I'd say people be like, you manage a shop. It's like, no, I manage a sales team of people. Like with them there, there's no fucking shop. There's no money coming into my
just a
pocket.
building.
So exactly, like I manage them. Like I figured that out a couple of years ago that if I manage them, I'll be all right. Used to try and do everything myself, doesn't work. So I manage them, and I've got to the point with my team, and I hope they don't mind me saying, nobody really knows where I work anyway. But I listen to their problems. Like that is one of the big parts of my job is that if somebody isn't happy, they're not going to perform. So I sit and listen to their problems and I'll ask them, and I try not to use much of my training when I'm dealing with people in my real life. Like just the same as like me and you having a conversation, I'm letting myself be aware of the cloak and stuff, and that stuff that you can't do when you're like somebody's in crisis or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I don't use any of that to try and help manage people because I think that's unfair. They need to be aware that you're going to use stuff like that. But I hear all their troubles, and I think that one of the main things that I hear for them is that they just feel overwhelmed. And I think that and I try and say to them, look, these are things, try meditation, try this and that. And again, just like hitting on the point that you've managed to get out in front of it. Like you're saying, like this time it's 6 months versus 2 weeks. It's just it's such a valuable thing that you've got if you can do that, man. Like I think there's a lot of people out there that just drown on it.
Well, I think both of us have spent a long period of time doing that ourselves, to be fair. You know what I mean? Like at various points in our lives. And it is an easy thing. It's one of the things like, I liken it to climbing out a hole. You know what I mean? But there's definitely been times in my life where I chose to live in the hole. You know what I mean? Like where I consciously chose to live in the hole, where I went, well, this is just who I'm are. You know what I mean? Like this is the thing that I need to come to terms with myself.
Right.
Is that this is who I'm are and this is how I'm are. And that was bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
I think so. I think I've done this a similar thing. I don't think I consciously. I think the second that I get a conscious window, that it was speaking to somebody and they described their anxiety to me, and I went, "Holy shit! I've had this twice, at prolonged periods of time in my life, and never realised that. I just thought this is just the way that I felt. Like you're saying, this is just part of me. But also in that sort of romantic rock star being in a band mode, I definitely caned it. I definitely did things that I shouldn't have done.
Absolutely.
I definitely like stayed out too late, drank too much, took too many drugs, broke relationships with people through my bad behaviour. And so I think that I consciously made a choice as well, because that there's no way that I didn't know that being a cunt to people or being an arsehole, people don't like that word, being an arsehole to people is going to mean that they don't want to be around me. Like I knew fine well that was the case, but I made that choice because it was part of like an image that I'd had for myself. This is the way that I need to act. So I think I did make I went both ways there. I went, I've never been conscious of it, but I think I definitely did.
Yeah.
And I think part of that sort of thing as well is quite dangerous. Like the sort of cultures the romance that we put behind these sort of tragic figures and fallen idols.
I think it's changing. I think, the 27 Club, as people refer to the Winehouses and Joplins and Hendrixes and all these people that lived fast, died young, Jim Morrison and all that kind of stuff. I think it's not an image that the sort of current incarnation of society really rewards in the same way. Like these people were held up as icons at a time, and had probably quite a negative influence on a lot of people's lives. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
I knew a guy a long time ago who was absolutely mental for Kurt Cobain, and that had an impact on his life in a negative fashion where, he was choosing to live in the hole because he thought that it would make him more like his idol. You know what I mean? Like, when there may or may not have been anything legitimately wrong with him, And I think that it's something that when you go through these types of things for so long as people who maybe don't have these coping mechanisms, these support structures in place, living in the hole can feel like, as you say, it becomes part of who you are, so you just become comfortable with it. You know what I mean? But, there are a lot of people in previous generations that climbed in the hole and didn't fall in like the rest is. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's rewarded in the same way. I think we live in a world where, there's a premium on clean-cut, well-behaved, uncontroversial, people. I think the negative impact of these behaviours is
outweighing the
it's frowned
romance.
upon. People that want that high-end proper success that these other people had in the past that influenced these mindsets, they're no held up in the same way. I don't think
it's bad for business.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that guys like Pete Doherty, I think he's probably. I'm sure there's people who would be like, no, there's this guy.
Yeah,
he's been on heroin a bit, but he's one of the last of the sort of heroin rock stars. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd heard something about somebody else, but they keep it secret. It's
Of
not.
course.
He was fucking balls out of it. Do you know what I mean? Although, before we talk about Pete Doherty, did you see that photo of him demolishing that
mention
breakfast?
the breakfast. Well, he's definitely not on the smack anymore if he's eating that amount of scran. You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
was thinking I was thinking that's been a fucking 4-day coke binge.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Eckies and coke, and he's come out of a hole, like, or ket or whatever.
Been
He's
like pure no wet for 4 days.
later,
Aye.
and he's just been pure
Maybe.
skipping down the shop. Genius, man. But he's the last of that sort of breed of people. I think, well, not
Definitely.
unless another one turns up somewhere.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of destructive sort of drug addict people in the sort of hip hop world.
A lot of fucked up shit. I mean, like
Xanax,
you're
the-
drunk
the-
and all
the-
that kind of stuff.
I suppose
you know what I mean? Like,
just as I said that there, there's a lot of them that are on Xanax and on these sort of like almost like designer chill out drugs that as a cannabis connoisseur I can neither like look down my nose at anybody, but they're promoting the use of these drugs, and I think that exists in the hip hop world, but in the sort of mainstream rock and roll,
Yeah.
Libertine's really mainstream. They were mainstream enough, but that sort of idea of the sort of heroin chic and
Yeah.
well, I think that
I think I've got that
younger
tied in.
generations are just too preoccupied with being cool.
yeah. Nobody wants to be rock stars anymore. They all want to be YouTubers. You know what I mean? Like,
Influencers.
I've got a 14-year-old daughter who will never pick up any meaningful musical instrument in her life, probably. But put her in front of her pal Snapchat and she'll talk for hours, probably. You know what I mean? That's the thing now. You know what I mean? So you look at the what was it, Logan, whatever his name is, and
Logan Paul.
Yeah, the backlash to him in the Japanese forest and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean,
But
that's about as
the backlash didn't last long because I'm pretty sure that you're not up in these things, and
I was boxing somebody the other
they
day.
just and made a fuck ton of money. Boxing another YouTube guy, and now there's guys out there. There's the Brendan Schwab, who's like one of the sort of main, no official, but one of the main mixed
MMA
martial arts guys.
Aye.
He's on like Fox and stuff like that. He's now calling for him to get put into the UFC and saying what's the difference between Logan Paul and CM Punk. And you're like, well, fuck. You're kind of like,
Aye.
he's going to end
these
up
things
there.
are all starting off box, but at the same time, that kind of niche sort of borderline behaviour that we're talking about for previous generations is, as I say, that's the perfect example of how frowned upon it is, because I don't really know that it was disrespectful to film a dead body, right? No doubt, but at the same time,
It's a storm in a teacup, isn't it?
it was full outrage, and that's the thing now. Like people aren't actually angry, people aren't actually upset by these things. There's just full outrage because it gives them an excuse to piss and moan on social media, and I think that's another element. Kind of maybe what drives some of folks' anxiety. I know we've touched on the sort of social media side of things a few times. the sort of pigeonholing and the sort of divide and conquer and all the rest of it. I think at this time now we're attacked, like consciously attacked by so many forces that want us to feel anxious, that want us to be uneasy, because when we're uneasy, we're pliable, we're easy to manipulate. When we're scared, when we're unsettled, we're easy to push in certain directions, particularly in large numbers. And it's almost like, societal provided anxiety.
Anxiety is like the perfect consumer state. Anxiety is it's just that whole sort of like there's
shit is coming by this stuff.
Aye, you'll miss out.
Aye.
And if you're sitting on a knife edge, and that, like we're saying, you've got no control of your thoughts. We'll talk about that earlier on. And somebody's like, you must buy this. Like you're not buying this right now. You must buy this.
Your life is shit because you don't have this product.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you're in a sort of perfect space to consume. And also, if they can push you into that anxious state, then you've got very little control of yourself.
It's no an accident when you like walk through Times Square, Piccadilly Circus, downtown Tokyo, and every square inch of free space is filled by neon lights that flash, and you're distracted. You put on a YouTube video, you get an advert. You play a game on your phone, and you get a pop up, and you can't back out it for 30 seconds. You've got to watch it. On-demand content. When you go, the great thing about on-demand used to be that you could pay your extra $5 a month, you would never have to watch an advert. Yeah. And now you put on a 20-minute episode of like Broad City or like The Daily Show or whatever it is. There's 3 advert breaks, and you're like, You've trapped me here.
Under false pretense.
Exactly. Football, you go to football stadium, it's all flashing lights and move, and it's about just creating that unease, that that inability to really focus, as you say earlier on what's happening here right now. You know what I mean? Because they don't want you doing that. You know what I mean? Like governments don't want you doing it. Advertisers, big companies don't want you doing it, because then you're not pliable to what they want for you.
You wake the fuck up to, but some of the stuff that's going on, definitely. I know that this is, and I have really thought about this because it's definitely like getting old, but I really, really worry about young people.
Definitely.
About the kinds of young people that this kind of culture is going to produce. But at the same time, I take a lot of heart at the fact that there was people said that about my generation, and I mean, we've not done great, but we've done all right. But every single generation. But I think that I think that this is a massive change. The reason, so if somebody was to say, why are you worried? I think that if you think about the traditional guys that held Elvis Presley and went, no, held the Beatles, no, the Who, no, this type of. That's what I think about, that sort of like school teacher, like your generation, that's just noise and it's stuff like that. It's like, no, because I appreciate good music, so it's not that, it's not a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's that I feel the anxiety that I get off it. That if I spend too much time on social media, I can feel it. I can definitely feel it. If I take a day where I don't spend a lot of time on social media, whether it be through conscious choice or just chance that I'm busy at work and then I come home and I've got something planned, whatever, I feel a fuck ton better.
Absolutely. I've said to you as well, at times where you went, mate, you were unresponsive there, we were texting back and forth about shows, and I went, mate, I'm having a bit of a quiet day, because there is days where I will consciously put the phone down. Don't get me wrong, it's maybe once a week or something like that, you know what I mean? But there is definitely days where I'll get up in the morning and be like, do you know what? I'm not having that bullshit today, because, as you say, it's just this, 24-hour news, all these things, it's just this constant movement, bright lights and loud noises and people telling you what to do and what you need, and people are always going to disappear inside that. You know what I mean? And I think it is more and more prominent. I think it's, as time progresses, they're finding new and interesting ways to distract us and keep us unsettled and pliable. You know what I mean? And I think the younger generations that you're talking about, as we were talking again last week with Dan, resilience is going to be something that is going to be massive for them, because who's teaching them that? You know what I mean? Like, who's teaching them that when they go into this real world, there's things that they need to be prepared for? Like, we're on a borderline between, the last generation that didn't really have to deal with as much of this stuff, and the first generation that will never experience the world that we experienced growing up. You know what I mean? Like we're almost a kind of transitional generation in terms of this technology and these worlds. And like, how are they going to, if we are the people that are supposed to teach them as the generation above them, and we don't really get it, how are they going to get it? When they have no point of reference for what we're trying to tell them. You know what I mean?
I suppose that the only good thing about that, or the one good thing that I can think, is that we're kind of on the same boat. We're like the guinea pigs, I suppose, and we need people to be like, I was going to ask a question. Do you think we'll find somebody that is fully consumed, like, or will we find out human capacity for consumption? Is that something like, or a better way of putting it, will we find the limit of stimulation that we can hit before something goes really badly wrong? Have we might have already done it, we just don't know about it.
There's got to be overstimulation is definitely something that should be an issue. I think, you know, even things like, you know, ADHD, you know, attention deficit, etc. Similar types of, you know, sort of symptoms and prognosis to that. They might have always been there, but I'm definitely conscious that when I was, you know, at school age to where I'm on now, stuff like that seems to have taken a massive spike.
Definitely.
And again, I think this is the byproduct of the type of world that we live in, where it's all, look here, do this, do that, you know, and you would say there's probably no limit to how much some people can endure, because people have endured some shit in their day, but there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't have that resilience, don't have that support, don't have that experience that probably will drown in it. You know what I mean?
I've got personal experience, a bit of personal experience, and this is just, I suppose, what I've experienced, that in the last year, having the TV on, so this was something I used to love, like, have the TV on silent and play music, and just put on whatever. Usually Celtic videos, like I'm bad, like Sharnold, like I'll just sit and watch Celtic videos. Like, and this week I'll just sit and watch Celtic score goals against Rangers. I think it's like a psychological thing. I'm like, if I was a player, if I was a player, you'd be like, I can understand that, but as somebody that doesn't even go to the games anymore, it's like kind of pathetic. But I just love it. It's just something that I do. I've always done it. But I used to sit with like video, YouTube, and sit and play music. And in the last year, I kind of hate doing it. It makes me feel anxious.
It's pure split consciousness.
I don't feel good when it's happening. I feel kind of, like you're saying, I feel kind of split, and I don't know where to put my attention. And so I've stopped doing it. And then, so like, I'd watched something the other night, and the guy had said, oh, my teenager can't sit in silence. He needs to have at least his phone and something on the TV.
Right.
And he was describing his autism.
Okay.
And I would never ever dream of saying, like, is this specific case autism, just the wee guy just needs, what how's he living? Is that something that he's had since like day dot? Has he had an iPad fired in front of him since he was born? Is this, like, these are the types of questions that you almost can't ask though, because the people, it'll be like, well, how dare you?
Of course. Is the implication that you're saying I caused this and all that kind of
I don't think that in a generation we can go from to the point where I was in a school class where nobody had ADHD, nobody had autism, to the point where it's affecting like 10s and 15%
absolutely.
Populations and stuff like that. And I don't know if this is my worry, is that
I know more than one person with autistic. More than one person with more than one autistic child. You know what I mean? Like, so it is something that is hugely spiked, but again, I personally don't know enough about that side.
Neither do I. I don't know. I would like to think, and I hope it is, the fact that we're progressing and that we're becoming better at diagnosing these things. But I also think that part of it is just our inability to sort of regulate behaviour, or an inability to control. Like, I mean, if we think back, man, I wasn't allowed to sit in front of the TV. Like, I had time. I had an allotted time. It was normally when I came into school until when Neighbours started at 20 to 6. But see, in that time, I was allowed to watch what I wanted. And then outside of that time, if I didn't watch what my mum and dad were watching, go to your room. That was it, So a lot of the time I went to my room and I played guitar and I listen to music. Like, I think that would be the main thing. I wouldn't be saying, oh, yeah, I went and learned how to play guitar. Well, I rejected TV. It wasn't that. It was
No.
that a lot of EastEnders, Coronation Street, Emmerdale, stuff that my mum and dad were watching bored the piss at me. So I used to
Just
go...
back in the days of 4 and 5 channels, eh?
Aye. I would go next door and would sit with a twin tape recorder and listen to Tiger Tim or whatever it was and record. And I've still got a couple of the tapes.
Mine was John Peel and Steve Lamacq.
So, I wasn't quite as cultured as you, unfortunately.
I just stumbled across them one time, to be fair.
But I think that I don't know if that's maybe something to do with it, and that are we breeding this like hypersensitivity into people? Like, are they stimulated to the point where they can't like? So, if you're sitting playing a computer game for like 8 hours a day, the rest of that time, if you're feeling anxious, is that because your brain is craving this stimulation? Is it the
almost like
same
an
addiction
addiction.
that I got when I try and kick cigarettes, or an alcoholic tries to stop
Yeah.
drinking? Is it that you do have anxiety, but it's just directly linked to the amount of time that you're spending with these flashing lights flying? And I hate talking like this because I feel like an old man. You're like, oh, these flashing lights and hyper violence and all
No,
that.
and
but-
it's a huge concern because even like, and again, as we've been discussing mental health and various other things, part of the reading I've done, I read quite a number of really cool and interesting articles about how people are treating anxiety, PTSD, OCD, and all these various other things that we've been discussing in recent weeks via like the medium of video games and like virtual reality and stuff like that. And there's this really cool wave of stuff going on all across the world where the technology being utilised for good, and that's great. But it's been utilised because of some of the absolute horror stories that have come out of the back of it. I mean, there was this Korean couple who played so much whatever it is, Life 2.0 or whatever the Korean equivalent is, that they neglected their newborn baby and the baby died.
Aye, that's right. Aye.
There's like CAPS in Korea as well. So these, Second Life type games are so massive, and they've got, they have 150 meg broadband as part of their, their equivalent of council tax. So they have massively amazing connections. And that's bred is these kind of like Life 2.0 Second Life type games on just a scale that you just haven't seen before. And people are actually now experiencing this gaming addiction. So obviously now governments having to take steps, and it's really prominent all across like sort of Southeast Asia. And then they're not, I think like Thailand, I think Vietnam, places like Burma
Japan.
and that. I don't know that Japan's quite there yet, but I think it's been something that's been discussed, if I remember right.
No.
But you're talking, it started in South Korea and has now swept across a lot of Asian countries where they're actually having to limit the amount of internet time. So I think between something like midnight and 8 a.m, the internet goes down.
Fucking commies, man.
The internet goes down, but it's because the negative effect of this overstimulation is having, you know what I mean? Like, whether that then results in, them suffering for the kind of anxiety and the disorders we're talking about, I'm not sure, but it's definitely having a negative impact on people's quality of life.
Yeah, the only reason that I bring it up is because I noticed that my my anxiety does sort of knock at the door if I spend too much time. I mean, it's not even like, well, you could say that, but it's definitely like if I can stay off my phone, like we did maybe about a year ago, we were like, well, we won't go on our phones past 7 o'clock because it's like my whole argument was always work. Like I use WhatsApp, people message me, but if the shop's shut, what the fuck you got to do?
Aye.
So put the phone down, did that for a couple of weeks, and it was great. But then you just slip back in, but I think
these devices become such a big part of people's lives now. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to slide back into
I
those
know
habits.
that this is something that's always said when it comes to these things, but I think that education's the key. I don't think banning people for anything's going to help them.
No.
I think that if a heroin addict could only get heroin for 4 hours a day, be smacked out his tits for 4 hours a day, it's not going to do him any good.
Aye.
It's not going to do him any good. But
Yeah.
what will do people? If you could sit down with somebody, like for instance, if somebody was to say to me, if you watch porn every day, you will be disinterested in actual sex.
Right.
I would have been like, fuck off.
Aye.
No, you kidding? It's like fuel for the fire. Like
Aye. I'm
but
pre-gaming.
that is exactly what happens, but nobody fucking talks about it.
No.
Nobody's talking about it. In fact, when you get people going on about, there's a movement to ban porn, and when that movement and people are like, that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say to the people, we'll see before you say that it's ridiculous. I don't condone banning anything,
Mm-hmm.
definitely no, but you should go and read some of these people's experiences.
Yeah.
Like, I get the fright of my life when I read about these things, like guys that were saying that they ended up watching child porn, they ended up watching bestiality, and how that happens is, and I recognise this in a very, very small thing for me, the porn needs to become more extreme
Yeah,
the more you watch it.
bigger fix.
Yeah, exactly. And I had, you start on the normal stuff and then you end up on quite hardcore. You like hardcore stuff, you want to see 3 women, you want to see 4 guys bang the 1 woman, whatever it might be, it is extreme sexual like expression. A lot of these guys end up so far down the rabbit hole that they've got nothing gets them off.
Yeah.
And that is the point which they need to turn back.
Of course.
But why is nobody speaking about this? Why is there I mean, there's plenty of information online to say that there's a lot of these guys that end up in like sort of homosexual sexual encounters, and the reason for that being is that it's easy and they need it, and also it's extreme to them because they're no gay. So
Okay.
does that make sense? So like,
And it does actually, but it's never a point of view I've considered.
to find something that actually floats your boat or actually gives you that stimuli that's going to get you aroused,
They need to go into
they
something
need
that's
to
not
go
even
into
interested
something
in.
that they're not interested in, something that's actually telling them that no, you don't like this, and that is what gets them
Wow.
like going. And that is what people like. I've maybe read like 3 or 4 accounts of that, but as long as you know that that is a possibility, that scared the shit out of me. It's like, this is something that could potentially happen to you if you don't get this under control, because it's no under control. Because that is, I had hit stage 1 where it was like a disinterest in actual sex. It was like, it was almost like you don't need it.
Aye, I've already taken care of myself.
Exactly, like it's too much effort, it's too much
Aye.
hassle for me. But there's absolutely no education out there.
I think it kind of follows a similar thing we were talking about the gaming and that stimulation. You know, the accessibility of porn. You know, every teenage boy's got an iPhone, an iPad now. You know, unless your parents have actually taken steps to manage what you can and can't see, then the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in the precedented sense, at such a young age, can only be negative.
Can you remember
know what I mean? Like,
the first time you seen hardcore pornography?
I swear to God, we found a bin bag under a hedge, and that sounds like a cliche.
Is it a video?
It was magazine.
Magazines, right? So that isn't really hardcore pornography.
Well, I suppose it is
Actual hardcore pornography, like maybe a video went about secondary school. I think that I've
Probably,
obviously
aye.
thought about this
People
because
pass videos about, definitely.
yeah, I've thought about this. I think the first time I ever seen proper hardcore pornography, I was like 14, right? 14, 15.
Aye.
I think the first time I watched that was a bit like, do you know what I mean?
Aye, because the first time you watch it as a mid-teen, like, you're probably watching it with like 6 of your mates, and
Aye.
it gets weird when you're trying to hide
Aye,
boners.
and
you know
that
what I mean?
definitely
Like,
is what happened to me. It was in somebody's house. We were all sitting about watching a porno, but it almost felt sort of like you're feeling, at that age, you're feeling things that you've never felt before almost. Like it's like new feelings and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it is really sort of strange and awkward for you. But I would say the first time that I watched and enjoyed a hardcore pornography was the Paris Hilton porno.
Okay.
So I was about 19. That was the first time that I was like, I enjoyed that. Like,
Okay.
whoa, fuck, I want to see that again type thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And so that was the first time. Like, they're thinking that daily use of hardcore pornography starts somewhere around about the 10, 11 mark for a lot of guys. The average age that somebody watches their first pornos and they're doing it 8.
Jesus Christ.
So this needs to be.
There needs to be
There needs to
education.
be something
Aye.
happens about this.
Because again, if it goes unchecked, and we end up with a generation of people who don't know how unrealistic and how, you know, no married to like real life and the real experience of having sex with somebody, it's what we're going to see is massive spikes in anxiety, massive spikes in behavioural issues, massive spikes in, you know, teen and sort of younger suicides, again, as Dan was mentioning last week. That's where our focus has to be, is to stop this epidemic in mental health and young men particularly for sliding down the demographic to people who aren't physically and emotionally capable of actually handling it in the right way. It's like the young fella that, obviously I found it quite weird that Dan actually mentioned an example about a mother who had concerns about a 9-year-old, and obviously this week a 9-year-old boy in America took his own life because he came out as gay. And he actually came out as gay to his mum. His mum says, "It doesn't matter, I love you." And that emboldened him to then come out to his classmates. And that's weird that he can be so emotionally aware of who he is at that age, because as much as I had like crushes on young girls when I was that age, I would never have classified it in those terms that, oh well, I'm definitely straight now. I get that, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's weird that at that age they can be as aware as they are. I think it was a great thing that his mother was so accepting and loving of what he knew about himself at that age. But then we also need to temper it, you know what I mean? Because he's felt so confident in himself for his mum's reaction that he has then put himself in a situation where other people aren't as emotionally aware and have caused a real issue. And it's horrific. But again, that's
horrific.
That's education. It's about knowing themselves, about communication, and these are all the areas that I think we've been talking about that are, if we don't focus on them, we're going to see these issues that we've been talking becoming more and more sort of prevalent.
I watched something all night that were talking about that, and this is coming for them. I've not read anything. I'd heard about the young boy, that the young guy. So I don't know if this is true, but he'd said to his mum, "Should I tell people at school?" And she was like, "I go ahead, right?
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that." But the guys. And guys, obviously, but the guys in this that I'd heard talking about this were basically like, she's got a responsibility to tell him, look, no, everybody's going to be all right with this. Like,
of course.
Especially with this guy's point is that kids are wee shits, man.
Absolutely.
And like, statistically, if he's in a class of 10 people, 4 of them are gay, or three other guys are gay along with him anyway.
Yeah.
But that had kind of like, I was caught in between two minds with that, because
Definitely.
if my kid at 9 came to me and said that they were gay, I would be like absolutely accepting it. But there is no other 9-year-old, like you just said there, nobody comes out as heterosexual.
Yeah.
You don't. Kids aren't standing about at 9 going, "I'm straight, by the way." So what it does is it, and unfortunately, this is just truth. It separates them for the rest.
Yeah.
And when that happens at that age, 7, 8, 9-year-old,
easy to become
there
a
is only
target.
one fucking thing that is going to happen to that one, and that is bullied. And whether that happens by one wee shit that everybody accepts it, apart from this one wee fucker that just waits until everybody's no there and is like, "Oh," or everybody does it, which just seems to have happened. They've ganged up on this wee guy. I think that when
There's a group of 9-year-olds that you need to live with. You know what I mean? And again,
So I was
maybe
caught in between
education
two minds.
could have stopped that. You know
I was
what mean?
caught in between two minds. I sort of agreeing with the guy and going, "No, he's right here, by the way," because she should have known. Look, it's just not something that they're ready. I mean, sit the wee guy down and just be like, that your classmates aren't ready to deal with something like this.
We can't trust them.
We can't, exactly. And there's times when you trust, but I hope that wasn't what happened. I hope that, as you put it, that the wee guy had the confidence that his mum and his family were so accepting his situation that he had the confidence to go in and just come out to everybody.
That was just, again, what I'd read.
The idea for me that, like you just said there, you're running on instinct, and that there is absolutely no reason for anybody to disbelieve a 9-year-old kid when they're like, "Listen, I'm gay," because they're literally, they're at the raw end.
Yeah.
Like all of that. But I would also be like, look, just keep your mind open. Like that, I know that you're getting these feelings, and I would want them to talk to me about them. But I think that at that age, it's kind of like when you hear about the sort of transgender kids, and there's parents that are giving them hormones at like 5 and 6, 7-year-old, and it's like, why don't you just give them a chance to make their fucking mind up? Like if that kid comes to you in 5 years and goes, "No, I'm definitely gay," amazing. But if that kid comes to you and goes, "In fact, I'm no gay," and then resents you for like sort of embracing this in them and grow older to go, "You shouldn't have done that. Like you made me vulnerable. Like I was kind of like conflicted, and I still don't actually know, man. Like this is a lot of like a lot of conversations that I have with people. I'm just sort of like shooting ideas about how I feel and how I think, and
Yeah.
I'm not going, this is what I think.
No, of
you
course.
kind of change my mind. If somebody was to be like, no, that woman should definitely have encouraged their kid to go, he's just the first one out of the war, and he paid for it, like, or whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
Maybe.
But I would, if that was me, I would be like, look, it's not something that you can hide, but you don't need to go and tell everybody.
You don't need to necessarily advertise it at this age either. It's a difficult one, but I think like a number of the examples we've been discussing, it's about that understanding. It's about the education. It's about thinking about the big picture and the impact that these choices we make for our society, and the the side effects they have, the anxiety, the attention deficits, and all these other things that we've been discussing through the course of the day. It's like we were talking last week. It's great to have awareness, but I think awareness without a plan of action at the other side of it can cause issues. So it's great that this wee fella was as aware of himself as he was,
Yeah.
but there wasn't a cohesive plan of
Yeah.
action to manage it.
For sure.
Same way the gaming addictions and
Yeah.
porn addictions and whatever else that it happens to be that we're in about. It's fair enough to go, I've got this issue, but if you're then no capable of dealing with it in a meaningful way, your awareness is worthless.
Yeah, aye,
You know what I mean,
definitely. I think as well as, like, I could completely understand why somebody would be like, well, Paul, like, why would you think that anybody needs... Society should be able to deal with these things, and I would be like 100% behind
Absolutely.
you. We should all be open and honest about the way that we feel and stuff, but unfortunately we live in a very fucking real world,
Yeah.
and society isn't built up to deal with these things. Like, we've spent 50 to 100 years basically just ignoring a lot of shit, and like you said, we're the transitional generation that's starting to have to deal with a lot of it, because the internet is airing the dirty laundry.
Oh, aye. There's
And
nowhere to hide
There's
anymore.
absolutely nowhere to hide, and I think that we live in... It's such a strange time to be alive. I don't know if I would ever... You'd get that sort of like, oh, I wish I was alive at this time. It's always like music or football based.
Yeah.
I'd like to have been in Lisbon in '67. If I had a time machine, I'd definitely go back.
Oh,
But
aye.
one of my... If I had 5 spots or something like that, I would definitely make that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we live in one of the
I think
most
there's going to be
interesting...
a lot of people going, I want to go back to 2018.
No, but I think that there isn't a lot of people saying that they would like to go back to the Great Depression or like to
No.
go back to the World Wars, but they generations of people are heralded as like the greats.
Yeah.
And we could potentially be part of a great generation of people
Yeah.
because we're being trusted. Well, we're being trusted, but probably stupidly, but we're being trusted with things that no other generation's ever been trusted before. The amount of information, the amount of influence that we have on each other, the sort of different groups of people that are popping up here that want to be identified in certain ways, and we're being trusted with that. And I just hope that we don't just fuck it up,
Yeah.
because we could do some serious damage
Aye.
to ourselves, man.
We're
This
in-
step backwards that we're looking like that people are wanting to take, like you're saying.
Yeah.
We live in a generation of people that are looking back at the 80s and going, oh, it was pretty fucking good then, and then but looking at it now and going, I don't like the way it's gone. And
Yeah.
it's just, but we can't go back.
Absolutely.
We'll never go back.
Both in Britain and America, we're, looking to kind of hark back to a halcyon vision of a society that only ever existed in cheesy TV shows. Like, it never, the Leave It to Beaver in America.
2.4
and-
children.
Aye, all of that nonsense. It was always fiction. You know what I mean? Like, people's real lives largely never, ever fit any of these, stereotypes. And I think it's obviously a dangerous thing to, like, hark back and look to drag society back in a direction that is completely imaginary. You know what I mean? Like, I think society should always be about moving forward. And I think, as you say, we are kind of responsible now, not just for our own sort of mental and sort of spiritual awareness and well-being, but also that of pretty much the planet now. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe we are at the, front gate of a golden generation, but for me at the minute, it doesn't really feel like it.
Yeah. But I think that we've been at a real
Happy
pivot.
to be wrong though.
Aye, so would I. We've been at a real pivot point for a long time, and I just a lot of the times I watch stuff like I want to get into the sort of Trump stuff. I want to get into like the political side of stuff, but I've just found it's kind of similar to what Cavan was saying, that the overload that I got, like sort of positive political energy in 2014 has left this sort of really horrible taste in my mouth. And looking down at what's going on in Westminster, Boris Johnson, like, it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
Smog, all these clowns.
This guy, I mean, this guy looks like a fucking child snatcher. Like,
Oh, he does actually.
he is like, and the way he speaks, and people like, I think I might have said this on the podcast. I'm not too sure, or whether it was a conversation with somebody. I can remember watching Have I Got News for You, and Boris Johnson was
your
on.
dad was saying he was
and
dangerous.
That's
and
a dangerous man,
He is.
because it's all sort of ha ha ha, and oh, look at the way he speaks and blah blah blah. But that guy's got some seriously dangerous fucking
Same with
viewpoints. Man.
Farage. Farage is the same, the cheeky chappy. You know what I mean? But
He's pint of beer.
Aye.
I'm one of you. No,
yeah.
but you're a fucking millionaire banker, mate. Like,
Yeah.
you're about as much of one of us as.
exactly. Same with fucking Trump and all his clowns. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here working for you. You know, the working class man. Like, we're here to, you know, the unheard, silent minority or majority or whatever the hell it is that he ripped off in Nixon and Reagan and all the rest of it. But he's like, how, you know, he's never done an honest day's work, and neither is his entire cabinet. I mean, nobody's that's ever been within 20 feet of the guy's probably ever done, you know, a solid day's work in their entire life, you know what I mean? But
Aye.
he's the pure
As far
voice
as
of the
family.
working man. It's again, it's a total fantasy. So it is.
Aye, it's a strange one, and it's a strange one that they've managed to sell to people, but also it's not that strange because we're coming out of the back end of like austerity that we've never seen before,
No.
and we're continuing to see. And
It's all to pay for bloody tax cuts for rich people, you know what I mean? Let's not paying half any debt. British debt's trebled since austerity was introduced, you know what I mean? Like, American debt's hovering at like whatever, 14, 15 trillion dollars, you know what I mean? Like, it's bullshit. They're putting money in their cronies' pockets and, you know, telling us that they're paying down debt. It's a lot of bullshit. But I think in terms of, you know, obviously that climate, like, it's probably more important than ever that we do seek out, you know, opportunities to maybe try and be that, you know, new golden generation that you're talking about. I mean, I think that's one of the things I've enjoyed most about what we've done in recent weeks is talking to guys like, you know, Dan for Brothers in Arms, talking to Eva. We're going to be talking in obviously coming weeks with like Erin Slavin, who, and you know, maybe some, if we're lucky enough, maybe some of the ladies that have been campaigning at Celtic Park, and obviously, you know, changes with the Scottish Government recently. You know, we're going to speak hopefully in coming weeks to guys like our mate Greg, who is, you know, pretty much a genius, but he's, I mean, an actual genius, but, you know, serves the army, looking for an actual cause. Like, these are the types of people that I think we need to hold up, the people that are actually still out there fighting, and they're not looking for headlines, they're not looking for praise or anything like that, but I think if we're going to have this generation of people that actually do something meaningful that benefits the rest of the world, like, we need to hold them up at every opportunity that we get. And I think that's one of the things I've enjoyed most about the last couple of weeks is talking to interesting people about what they're passionate about, why they're passionate about it, and what they hope to achieve with it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
it's a good place to end, man, because I think, like, on that sort of positive note, but I think, like, just add that if you're listening to the podcast, please, like, we appreciate every single listen, like, comment.
Absolutely.
And if
Or the
you're
downloads.
Yep, and if you're enjoying it, please share it. This is just like a wee project that I'm loving doing. Just like you're
It's
saying
fast
yourself,
becoming a
man.
bit of a labour of love for myself as well, to be honest with you.
And I want to continue doing it, but we just need people to like share and like the tweets and watch the videos, and even if you can't watch it, you can just click it and play it and then pause it and then
And get in touch with your experience as well. If we're talking about suicide prevention, anxiety, you know, mental health, the life coach and stuff, if this is stuff that you haven't experienced, you know, we can give you a platform. We can share your tweets, we can share your videos or your audio, you know, SoundCloud. You want to, you know, provide us with any sort of guest content that you think relates to what we're talking about, or, you know, even goes against maybe some of the arguments were made. You know what I mean? Like, as I said in episode 1 again, I love a good argument. So you want to submit a wee essay, a wee blog post or whatever it is, we'll give you a platform to come and argue with as well.
Definitely. And if you want to reach out, as a few people, or like more than a few people have to me personally, to Mark personally, if you're a friend or if you want to add us on social media and send us a DM, I'm more than happy to share any experiences.
Absolutely.
Any point people in the right direction, man. But I've really enjoyed this. Has probably been the most relaxing podcast that we've done.
I was worried about this one today. I was anxious.
I think this is I think this is like episode 1, but we're a wee bit more experienced.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm really happy that we did this. And I think
We remembered to record it this time as well, didn't we?
Definitely. And your mic switched on.
Sweet.
But I think that even earlier on the day, it's like you're almost like, we've not got a guest on, what's the point? And like I really appreciate like you coming down and doing these podcasts with me, man, because I feel like really good about the chat that we've had tonight. And
absolutely, me too. I mean, as I say, I've got my coffee down me, that helped, but this is something that has definitely energised me today, and it has done every time I've been here, so I'm looking forward to hopefully loads more.
Cool, man. Right, cheers everybody, and again, if you can give us a share and if you want to reach out, send us a DM. Cheers, guys.
Catch you later.